So, welcome everyone to our first Friday healing chat. Today, we're focusing on healing with roses. Thanks for being with me. I am broadcasting from Benevento, Italy. So, welcome all of you. People here from Portland, Costa Rica, California here today. So, welcome. And let's go ahead before we start the call and do just a brief grounding. So, just a little reset for our minds and for our bodies, just to transition from whatever we were just doing a minute ago to be as fully present as we can right here, right now. So getting comfortable in your seats. Adjusting if you need to, moving away any distractions, phones, anything that might be pulling your attention away from this moment right here, right now with yourselves, closing your eyes if that feels safe. Maybe placing one hand on your heart, one hand on your belly. Let's take a few nice big deep breaths together. So on the inhale, getting more present right here, right now. Exhale, letting anything go. Could be a thought, a distraction. Maybe on the exhale, you're giving a little breath to a tight muscle, whatever it is. Inhale, present, exhale, whatever's not necessary for you right now. Let's do that a few more times. Just thanking yourselves for being here, for being on a new adventure with me and Ash, for being on hopefully a new perspective or an opening around healing, whatever that may be. Maybe your curiosity around roses brought you here. Whatever it is, just sending gratitude to yourself. For being curious, for being open, for showing up. Just trying to open to the word healing. What does healing mean to you? What's your definition? Maybe it's personal, or maybe a definition you've heard somewhere else before. What's healing? Giving yourself one last squeeze, maybe touching your body in one loving way, maybe squeezing your arms, squeezing your legs. Maybe if your back or shoulders are tight, squeezing that. Gently starting to open your eyes, coming back here with me now. Hi, everybody. I would love to hear either you can unmute yourself, I believe you can do that, or you can type it in the chat box. But what is your definition of healing? How would you define healing at this point in your life? And then I will tell you my definition. Don't worry, it's coming. But what's healing? Joe says wholeness. Yes. I love that definition. What else? Asking what's needed now. Great, Sue. Yes. Bringing all the pieces together to create peace and love within myself. I love that. Yeah. Great, Katie. Thanks. Good. So as that comes in for you, feel free to keep adding it to the chat box, even if your definition may change through the course of the class. That would be fun. So I'm going to tell you all a little bit about myself. Some of you, I am a usual face in your world in one way or another, through classes you've taken or being a part of the Warrior Goddess training circle. But my name is Mary Nicosia, and I am an adventurer alongside of Heather Ashamara. And our idea of a good time is creating side adventures that hopefully bring more play and more creativity to the world. And so this is the first part of a series that I'm going to be leading every Friday for the next few weeks on healing. So doing a talk on healing, and then each week talking about a different tool or aspect to healing. And I'll tell you a little bit why healing is so interesting to me. I have spent a tremendous amount of my adult life working with other people around healing in one way or another. So at the earlier part of my life, I was a social worker. I advocated for children in the foster care system. And I worked with families around reunification and healing. And my next career after that was as an acupuncturist and an herbalist. And I went really deep into studying plant medicine through the perspective of Chinese herbal medicine and then also Western herbal medicine, which I'm going to mention today, and was introduced to roses actually through a couple of my teachers that practice Western herbalism in different sectors. And I also work as an astrologer. So I use the birth chart to help people feel more consolidated and help support their healing in that way. So, in one way or another, what I've recognized about myself is there is a really beautiful calm and aligned sense that my true work is around sitting with people when they're in pain. I even remember my internship uh, through Chinese medical school. The classwork was really daunting for me. And as soon as I got into clinic and was actually working on patients, everything seemed to click. Like everything made sense. Whereas I noticed a lot of my peers, as soon as they got into clinic, there was a panic that happened, whereas there was ease going through classes. So I just took note of it and recognized it as a way where it's a place where I have ease and I really enjoy, and I feel really honored to work with people through their healing or healing in different aspects. So I'm also an extremely curious person. I'm always studying something. And I loved choosing holistic medicine because it feels like it's an endless study that could lead me down a lot of different paths, and it has, around my own healing and in working with others. And I feel the same way about astrology. There's just an endless amount of information and different directions you can go with it. So that is a little bit about me. And each piece, whether it's through teaching or working with patients and clients, I've learned something. And at this point in my life where I'm at around my definition of healing is that it's gotten much more simple than what it's used to be in the past. I've recognized that healing to me is creating the space to allow people to assimilate or integrate the events and things that have happened to them in their life. So essentially the safest space that I could offer, usually that it is comfortable. And by bringing my attention and my awareness to the thing that's most concerning for another, and then allowing for the space for them to feel themselves witnessed. And then, of course, for us to brainstorm together or use tools together. But healing to me really is allowing yourself to slow down and integrate what's going on, what hurts, what helps, what ideas do you have. So healing to me is very much about the relational aspect of life, and not just the relational aspect of sitting with someone else, which can be tremendously healing. It's also the tools of things that are brought in. So we can have a relational healing with other aspects to life. And today we're going to be focusing on roses. So how can being in relationship to roses be healing for us? So I'm going to say more, but I want to grab a couple more of the definitions in the chat box. Katie said, bringing all the pieces together to create peace and love within myself. Yep, I grabbed that one earlier. Definitely worth saying again. Thanks, Katie. CJ, this is something I had not thought about before, but I would say healing feels like no longer feeling like I'm breaking. Yeah. Good, CJ. Yeah. Lindsay, being able to be true to myself and breaking old patterns. Nice. Great. Great, great. So what I would love through at least the course of us spending time together right now, and certainly if I have the honor of being with you over the next few Fridays as we keep opening to relational healing and how that can help our lives and help us heal. Keep your definition of healing open, maybe a little bit more pliable, uh, in a way that allows you to stay curious about what is it that you need most now. So the aspect of healing first that we want to look at is what's beneficial for us. What is it that our physical body, our emotional body, our mental body, our energetic body, what do they need? Each one of those is a really key part to our healing. It's why I love holistic medicine. It's what acupuncture brings, is that when I would diagnose a patient, it was based on all of those systems. It wasn't just the physical body. So the emotional body, the mental body, the energy body. So all of these aspects are always at play. And I think at different phases and times of our lives, different things are needed, right? We have a different understanding of things. So again, as things come through, and certainly if you have questions about anything I'm saying, feel free to add them to the chat box. So for today, I want to bring in the name Rosemary Gladstar as inspiration that I'd love to make a shout out to. Rosemary is, they call her the godmother of modern herbalism. She has done a tremendous amount just in her work of loving plants, loving herbs, and really just in so many different ways gifting the world with the information that she has. She's written 12 books on different Western herbalism, whether it's recipes, whether it's how to work with plants. And she's a huge inspiration to many other people that work with plant medicine, that work with herbalism, because she teaches the importance of first developing a relational exchange with plants. So a lot of times in our world, we may view plants as some things that we step on that may be unknowingly lesser than, maybe they don't have feelings, they don't directly talk in a spoken language, and can kind of be pushed off to the side. And people that have spent time researching plants in different ways and kind of opening to, hey, who are you? Plant. My name is, like Rosemary literally would teach ways to listen and different ways to open to plants, to treat them with respect. And she's most famous for noting that essentially, if you give anything attention with this true-hearted curiosity, what you're allowing it to do is open and show you who it is. And this is true for people, right? So think of times when you've really been an active listener, when you've opened up and, you've watched people kind of expand out, or think of a time when someone has really just focused on you. You felt like you had their full attention and how easy it was for you to share things about yourself. And there's many herbalists and people that believe that if you give the same attention and focus in various ways to plants, they're going to open and you're going to learn more about them. And plants to rosemary have been, she calls them, not medicine, but breathing. They're like breathing. So taking them in almost as a necessity. And she believes that plants actually give way more than they take. And they have their own spiritual energy or message or things that they can teach all things, but especially the humans. That humans can have a really narrow perspective of what's possible at various times in their lives. This is one of the gifts of our mind. Our mind really allows us to narrow, do one thing at a time, and focus. And so when we bring in a different frequency or a different kind of energy into our world, it can expose us to kind of starting to open where we are being narrow in our thinking, or really limiting the possibility for our life. So she's written a lot about kind of this spiritual connection that you can have to all plants, by just allowing them to potentially show you something you never would have thought of before. So plants can be a resource to us. We can take them, they can be a part of our healing, by directly medicinally us eating them or taking them in or drinking them as a tea or a salve or putting them on our body. And the thing I want to introduce today is just introducing yourself and sitting with them. There can be something potentially extraordinary that can happen around your awareness with healing. So we're going to start with roses. So I'll get right down to it. Roses, anyone that knows me probably smells them, smells some kind of ointment or oil of roses. I usually carry things. This is one thing that I used to hold that I'd gifted a beloved, but it's a cup with a rose on it. Ash knows anytime she sees a rose, anything in the world, she grabs it for me. Thank you, Ash. Roses really are my best friend. I have a very deep companionship with them. And much like I mentioned with what Rosemary has shared before about introducing yourselves and becoming friends with them, roses are one of my BFFs. They're one of my BFFs. They are an extraordinary plant. And it is the first plant I want to start with to introduce you to around this idea of relational healing. So let me step back again and talk about why relational healing is so important right now. I don't know where you are in the world and how you're feeling, but what I've noticed is that there's a sense that's growing in humanity across the world that people aren't sure what they can trust anymore. And when we don't have an anchor with trust, whether it's trust in our communities, it's trust in our government, trust in our leaders, trust in the people that we surround ourselves around, in our communities, there's a wobble, a deep wobble that starts to happen. And what it does is it starts to shake our faith. And faith is essentially the belief in things that are a necessity to our humanity, to our health, to our healing, that are unseen. So usually the things that help generate faith, it's very common that it may be hard to describe it or define it or show tangibly, like you can pick up a pen and it's an object. Faith Doesn't always work like that. It's mostly rooted in things that are unseen. It's where some of us have a belief system in our highest self, in God, in spirit, in source, in the goddess, whatever it may be, is faith. And so when our trust has a wobble, our faith is affected. And if our faith is affected, usually our bodies start to tank. Okay? This is what I've seen. Because what happens is our capacity to sit with uncertainty becomes more and more difficult. And so what happens is our nervous systems really go into overdrive. And when we're not in balance around, managing calm minds, having some sense of harmony or that anchoring, I don't want to get too much into a medical training today with cortisol and cortisol spikes. I'm going to spare you about that. But when you get stressed, there's a spike that happens that affects your digestion. It clouds your thinking. It clouds your judgment. And there's a wobble. It affects your sleep. So it can create this sense of cycle, because what we're doing is we're training our mind that we have to know. So instead of rooting in to that feeling sense of faith or having an anchor rooted in faith, which essentially is becoming the embodiment, we're practicing being okay with not knowing. I can trust not knowing and not go into an anxiety spike, spiral out, maybe do a pattern that feels good in the moment, but maybe long term hurts my body, maybe eating foods that aren't the best for me, or I notice make me sleepy or hurt my stomach, that sort of thing. We lean more into that and less into it. So there has to be this sense of reclaiming around what we have faith in. What do you have faith in? And a lot of times we can't prove it. Sometimes we can. But it's this embodiment of what is it that I truly start to put my trust in. So I'm sure all of us at some point in our life have rested into a space where we've gone, it may be chaotic right now in my life. Maybe this pain is coming up for me, but I have this deeper knowing sense somewhere that I will still be okay. It's okay. May not look okay, but I know I'm going to be okay. And I think an important first step to reclaiming that sense of what do I put my faith, my trust in, we have to talk about healing. We have to talk about healing. We have to talk about, what are the things that can help me integrate what I'm feeling right now, pain I'm feeling right now, right, in different ways and traumatic experiences. Maybe that's with a therapist, maybe that's with some kind of medical doctor around an injury you've had. There needs to be a space of acknowledgement, that space of healing. And even just saying, I'm opening to a new resource or a resource I haven't thought of before to help me with this, is a tremendous and excellent first start to reestablishing your faith and trust, even if it feels like a baby step. And you all did that today. Congratulations. Be like, I'm gonna trust Mary here for a minute, see what the girls got to say about roses. Excellent, right? So just starting to open, right? Keep that sense of curiosity. What can help me heal right now? Start to open to a bigger picture. So relational healing. So trusting that there's a relationship happening that can aid your healing, maybe the healing to the other thing that you're working with, is a big first step, beautiful, big first step of faith and trust. It can restore faith and trust. So, in everything that I had mentioned that Rosemary had talked about with plants, starting to feel and recognize again the embodiment of just walking through a field of flowers, putting your feet on the earth, resting near a tree, and opening your lens that life is here to support me, right? So, this simple idea that plants give back more than they actually take, that there are things that can help me feel more resourced and can help support me right now. That feeling sense, even scientifically, is a big deal for us being in human bodies. That's why I love talking about plants first, because there's such a cool spiritual wisdom that can come from them and their messaging. Even it's as simple as they give more than they take back. And you can take that in and feel safe opening to them in that way. But the other piece is they are an embodiment of the earth. And just remembering to open up your smell, your sight, your feel, touch, your senses to life again, as opposed to being on a screen. Hello, and I'm glad you're here on a screen with me. Which is a lot of the ways our world looks right now. That it can help regulate our bodies in many ways to putting ourselves even just simply outside again. What do I smell? What do I see? What do I feel? What do I touch? And this is the meditation, very simple meditation, yet very profound, we're going to take to our work with the roses. So, relational healing, let's move to roses. Roses are so cool. They are so cool. They are so cool. Um, you know, the very first thing that I think roses can help all of us heal is this old story from long, long ago that we have to be gifted roses. Someone else has to see our value, our beauty, our wonder, and then give us roses. So that would mean that most of us have to sit around and wait to get roses. So long ago, I called bullshit on this and started buying myself roses. I would go to the grocery store, I'd go to the flower shop, and I'd walk past them and I would pick out a bouquet for myself and buy myself roses. So if you don't take anything else away from my talk today, go out today or tomorrow and buy yourself the most beautiful bouquet of roses and put them somewhere in your house. That's the only thing that you do. Okay. It's symbolic to me around healing, the obstacles we can unknowingly put up around our healing. That example of needing someone else to buy us roses. Roses have an extremely high frequency, even for a plant. So if our bodies are grooving at a frequency, let's say around 60 or 70 megahertz, roses are grooving at over 300. Like, think how cool your body is. Like, how much your mind thinks and your blood flows and your heart pumps and how you can move. Like, how much energy and the frequency you can put off. And roses are even higher. They've got a high vibe. Okay, they're extraordinary. I had a partner who was a musician and an acupuncturist and an herbalist and an astrologer. And so he put all this information together and started hooking up machines to different plants, including the roses, that the frequency would go through an input or to an output that created sound. So anytime energy would come off of one of the plants, it would go into some kind of musical sound. So it was actually giving a microphone to the plants. And what was hysterical is I lived with him for a little while. And so at various times, all day long, you'd hear the plants like yelling out, like their energy spiking and singing out. And so roses were some of the greatest singers. So that means just putting your body next to a rose, right? Because we're energy bodies, we can merge and we have effects on one another, right? So think of what happens for you when you sit next to somebody who maybe is really happy and is singing and is really in love. And suddenly you start to feel yourself smiling and moving your body differently and you feel more free. Same thing with roses. When we put our body next to roses, the same thing can happen because it's energy meeting energy. This also makes ointments, rose ointments, really cool, right? I'll put them on different acupuncture points in the body, and I'll show you those today. The hydrosols or the rose water sprays are fantastic. I actually use those all the time. So spraying those in places is sending that vibration out. And what's amazing is if you choose a plant person that works with roses, they're going to know to have that relational experience with them. They're going to have respect for them. And I'm going to talk to you more about how roses immediately can impact giving you feedback when you talk to them. Okay. So can help raise your energy or give you more energy. That's another way of saying it. It can also really help you clear your field. So as energy bodies, as humans, we're like magnets. What we pull in and we unknowingly hold on to. And sometimes some of the most uncomfortable types of energies can, at certain times in our lives, feel the most comfortable to hold on to, even though they may not be serving us, right? So if we're in a spiral, really feeling like we have to overthink to solve everything, what can happen is by exposing yourself to roses, it can kind of start to break that up. It can break that up. So giving it a shot. So this is energy perspective of roses. There's actually, they've done studies on the medicinal properties of roses. There's a lot of skincare products that have rose in them, and that's because they're high in vitamin C. It can generate vitamin C. And so what that does is vitamin C is necessary to boost your collagen. So the ooey gooey squishy stuff that keeps the outline of your body firm and connected, helps your connective tissue, your ligaments. Roses are helpful for that. And there's research that even just smelling the aromatherapy of roses helps calm anxiety and balance the mind. Roses are an ancient symbol in different traditions, and the longer you work with me, other than a 101 class, and there'll be more to come, we will go into some of those ancient traditions of the rose. The rose is a symbol of holding sacred secrets, of divine love. It's been affiliated with many major feminine divine belief systems and groups. The imagery of different petals of the rose is repeated around the cycle that Venus makes in our solar system. We'll talk more about that in another class. So even when you look, right? So we've talked about feeling, sitting next to, smelling, and now even if you look at a rose, the image of it has sacred geometry, or it has a pattern that's repeated through life that can help us connect really to love. Venus is about love. It's about connected human love. It's about what is attracted to you and what you're attracted towards, which is most of the human experience. So I believe roses can influence our energy bodies and being around them, that can allow us to open more to those circuits or those pathways that help us maybe even unknowingly, or guide us unknowingly towards the things we really want. And can open us in a way that the things that we really want, things that want us can find us, right? So in that sweet spot of authenticity and the way that we love, people that also love that way or love us for loving the way we love can find us. So going back to the original messaging, if someone else has to buy you roses, no. Think of all these things, through time we may be unknowingly not gifting ourselves. Not gifting ourselves. So what I want to do is leave you with a really simple meditation. So really step one is go find roses. And no matter where you are, I want to invite you to try this. When you meet a rose, whether it's at Trader Joe's or the grocery store, or maybe you have permission to be in someone's garden and they give you permission to cut some of their roses, or maybe your own. I want you to first, in your own loving way, introduce yourself to the rose. And I want you to ask, in your own unique way, would you like to come home with me? Would you like to work with me? Okay. So asking permission. And then trust your intuition. Trust your intuition. And even just that act of opening, curiosity, and respect is going to show you something profound. So the one thing that I love about this practice is that I've definitely gotten no's from plants. But here's the thing that I want to guide you. I want it to guide you, that practice to guide you towards what's just waiting for you. And I guarantee out of the bushel of roses, there's one that is screaming out to you, that already sees you, already witnesses you, is ready to go. Because remember, plants are not the same as us. They give way more than they receive. So it's a practice of really feeling when something else is opening towards you. And it's also a practice of remembering reverence. That if we're participating in relational healing, then we're respecting all things. And that's powerful. It's powerful. Okay. So practically, this could look like if you're standing in front of a group of roses at the grocery store. Maybe you get a feeling that kind of opens in the center of your chest, or maybe your body wants to grab a particular one. These can all be tells that you're getting a yes. and go for it. Okay, so it's not something you definitely have to overthink. And with this practice, trust me, I do not think you can make a mistake. So just go for it. So open to, if you've never done this practice before, just a new sensory way of trusting yourself and your intuition. So grab the roses. The number of roses that you want can have sacred meaning, and the numbers class is a different class with me. I think even just starting with one is very profound. So maybe picking one rose, whatever color you're drawn to and is drawn to you, and taking it home. And making an agreement with yourself that you're going to go into meditation with rose. You're going to have a reciprocal relationship, that you're going to open to any information that'll come through. And then in your reciprocal relationship, making a commitment to your rose. I'm going to give you water. I'm going to put you in a vase. And when it comes time for your petals to fall off, you start to die, you wilt. Maybe I'll take you back out to the earth, or maybe I'll use your petals for another ritual or ceremony. Right? So rose petals, after they dry, I love keeping them. I put them in baggies or in bags for ritual. I like to put them on my sacred spaces where I pray and where I meditate. I like to give little baggies of rose petals to people that I love or might need a pick-me-up. I put them in the bathtub when I take a bath. There's lots of different ways to use dried petals. So creating some kind of reciprocal agreement that you're not going to buy the rose and then forget about it. And then once a day, I want you just to meditate with your rose. So some of you I've taught you this practice before, and I hope maybe you got a new gem today and more classes to come that'll deepen around this. But take your journal and sit with your rose. So the word meditation gets used a lot, and this is the way that I mean it. That you're starting to get more clarity, that your mind is not the only voice with a microphone. Meditation, there's many different types of form, but essentially is the training, some form of training around your mind. And the training is that there is wisdom available within me other than just my mind. So what you're doing, if there's you at the center here with your microphone and you're ready to meditate, you're allowing your microphone to stay here. So say a thought, and a thought will come into your mind. You're not taking your microphone and going, what'd you say? How many loads of laundry do I have to do later? Oh, I forgot to call Tony back. You're saying, okay, mind, your thoughts are going to keep coming, and I'm just going to stay here for this experience. So usually meditation has a place. It gives your mind a job or a place to focus other than just thinking. So your meditation with your rose is going to be gazing. Okay. Breathing, right? Because we talked about scent, putting your body near it, and now gazing. So you're going to do gentle gazing. So maybe grab your journal, sit next to your rose once a day, pick a place that feels really yummy for you. Maybe you don't normally sit there or treat yourself to be able to sit there. Maybe it's a great window. Maybe it's a place where you are in your world right now is warm outside. Maybe you have a travel vase for your rose. You can carry it places with the water, whatever you want to do. It's between you and your rose. I'm just giving you choices, just options. Okay. But sit with your rose and just bring your attention to your breath. So just the smell of the rose, the sight of the rose, and let yourself start to let go. Okay. You can do a gratitude process, which looks like just very simply, I'm going to look at my rose and I'm going to intentionally notice everything that's extraordinary about this rose. From the smallest thing to the biggest thing, I'm just going to write it down. Okay. It could also look like I'm going to smell my rose and I'm going to get really quiet and just focus on my breathing. The meditation could be I'm going to smell or sit next to my rose, and now I'm going to put on my favorite song and I'm going to move my body. And maybe as I'm moving my body, I stop and I smell my rose. Okay. And my last one, and this is my favorite. You choose your favorite song, whatever it is. The one that you can't stop humming or circulating around in your head, or you love listening to it, you haven't heard it in a while, and you just sing to your rose. Just sing to your rose. Be one song. So all of these practices tell your mind that's saying, do we have time to do this? You sure? Do you think this is a good idea? If any of that's happening, and some of you may be like, this is the best idea I've ever heard, right? No matter what your mind's doing, this practice can take, I would love it if it's at least, let's say 9 minutes. So maybe you put a timer on, put your phone away, you can hear the alarm go off, or use a different timer. So it doesn't have to be long. Or you can say, you know what, I'm gonna book half hour or an hour with me and my rose and do all those different forms of meditation. The movement with the rose, singing with the rose, gazing with gratitude at the rose, just smelling. Maybe you change it up from day to day. And I just gave you a week's worth, one meditation a day to do with your rose. So 8 minutes, maybe to 30 minutes. Okay. And report back. Report back. I want you to notice what happens to your rose. I want you to notice how you feel. If anything shifts for you or what you notice. And you can feel free to add it to the chat box on the Ash and Rose Facebook page. I will be there to respond, probably within 24 hours, and just feel free to share. Okay. If you have questions about anything, or if it's a private share, I believe you can message me on there. I'd still love to hear it. I'd still love to know. Relational healing. So zooming back out again. So those are the meditations, those are the practices. It's a little bit of information with roses. And I could actually lead a 1-hour class on the medicinal forms. So of ingesting rose, of the topical, of using the petals and how to prepare it. There's lots of information on that. I know Rosemary Gladstar has recipes and has different books on it. You could probably even just look online or look for YouTube. Different herbalists, maybe a local herbalist that you trust. Maybe you can see if what recipes they have available for that. That's always an option. And this meditation and being in a relationship with something like this, I believe, is truly healing. It's allowing us to slow down and open us that being in relationship to something else can help us integrate, accept, love, re-engage our curiosity on something other than maybe disaster mind or doom scrolling. So create that space Allow the rose, trust the rose enough to help create that space for you. Even if it's just to take and breathe with it, right? Remember, it's always giving off that high vibe, that high frequency. If what in that moment is just to breathe with the rose. Anytime I do work with a client, they know me, we start the call, I say, let's breathe together. Right? That is sometimes a medicine that we ignore. Just breathe with me. And this in turn can open your awareness to how many things are supporting you in any one given moment. Right, so how you can slightly start to keep reminding yourself or shifting your perspective in some way, even if it's just a tweak, to how many available resources there are and how you want to be in relationship with those. Fear is powerful, but love is way more powerful. Way more. Okay. So if this is interesting to you, we will continue this conversation next Friday. Please report back on your work with roses. And how is everybody feeling? Feel free to add questions, shares to the chat boxes. We have a couple more minutes left together. How's everybody feeling? So next week, we're going to be talking about water. Right? Joe says, amazing, thank you. Yeah, thanks, Joe. Thanks for being here. Have fun with your roses. Lindsay says, excited. This is exactly what I needed right now. Perfect. Awesome. CJ says, I absolutely love this. Thank you. Yeah, thanks, CJ. Joe says, grounded. Awesome. Katie says, great. Thank you. Sue says, feeling relaxed and renewed. Thank you. Yes. Thank you. This was so sweet. Yeah. So we'll find a way to record this each week. And if you can join live, it's so sweet. So sweet. Fabio says, thank you. Thank you, Fabio. Fabio is my technical assistant here in Italy, responsible for this fabulous backdrop. Thank you, Fabio. How do we sign up for next week? Lindsay, let me put the Facebook page, the Ash and Rose Facebook page. I'll put the link here in the chat box, and all the classes I'm going to post in there for the Zoom link to join or how to access the videos. So I might change the time next Friday. I'm not sure if 7 to 10 a.m. in the States works for everyone. I love having something yummy and inspirational to have in the morning time. So maybe eventually we can vote on it. But next Friday, I'm going to be talking about water in the same way. It'll still be, Fridays will be about keeping the dialogue open about healing. I've been trying to find a way to date myself. Now I want to date flowers. Yes. It's really good, CJ. Yeah. They're ready. They're ready to go on dates with you. Promise. Yes. Fabio, I am an enthusiastic follower. Excellent. Lindsay said, great. Thank you. Okay. So let me go get the link from Facebook. One moment. Heather Ashamara, if you're there and would like to say anything, feel free. If not, that's okay too. Okay. Here is the link. Okay, that's our Facebook page. This is the new adventure of Mary and Ash right now. So all classes, all free classes, and I'm gonna keep going. It's my big love offering to the world right now. I'll post them in this Facebook group. Feel free to share this Facebook group too. People that would enjoy these classes or want to connect to this type of community, feel free to share the page. And thank you all so much. This was fun. Thanks for letting me share how much I love roses and healing. And I hope I get to see each one of you next week when we talk about water. Big love to each one of you and respect. We'll see you soon. Bye-bye.